talk to you in terms of where we are since the change in the Article 39 legislation, the formation of the School Capital Fund Commission, which we're very fortunate to have Pat Bryant serve on. There's a recommendation that came in from that commission that was recently approved by the county commissioners. So what they're going to present to you in terms of projects, and specifically more details with the 11 that were approved in this first round. Just realize that any project that's put in front of you and discussed that you see are projects that you have already seen at some point in time because they have actually been approved over our long-term plan, strategic plan for capital. So, Tim, Roger, I'm going to turn it over to you, and I'll be here to help answer questions.
Roger's going to give you a supplemental handout to help explain the last two items on the list, but you see my letter to Dr. Baldwin recommending lottery funding for several projects. You also see in there our fiscal year 17 request for Article 39 funding for that went to the School Capital Fund Commission. The first 11 items were funded on that list, and that totals, help me Roger, 15 million? 17 million?
$17,261,000.
And that's 11 of 33 requests. So the summary takeaway is that what you folks approved in the long-range plan was more than what was funded. So there was a shortfall there. So our choices are we could put those off, and we're going to have to put those off, and we'll re-request. But there's several projects that are really critical that it's important that we keep moving and keep the spirit of the long-range plan in place. Things that are phased, roofs that are really critical to be redone, and the what I think will be the final phase of Discovery Academy. We'll be getting our senior, we'll have seniors through freshman classes, and we're being consistent in that we funded that entire project from the beginning through lottery. So that was on your long-range plan. It was always intended to be funded by lottery. The other projects were intended to be funded by the Article 39. So this, by putting a few of those in there, we'll maintain the spirit. We won't be able to do everything, but we're used to phasing things, and we'll make it work. And with that, Roger's going to explain the last two items, number 7 and 8, that help kind of plug that shortfall, because we basically we needed to get a couple of projects done over the last summer. This roofing in particular, they had to be done over the summer, and roofs were about to fail. So based on your approval of the projects, we borrowed funds from previously approved capital projects that weren't refunded through the Capital Commission. So Roger will explain those last two that may be confusing to you.
So on the memo, you can see that the first one here is the Discovery Academy, and it goes all the way down to the number 8, identify Article 4042 projects. So I'm going to be talking about number 7 and 8. Number 7 is to redirect unanticipated receipts of 4042 funds. And then item number 7, so of the 450, 190,000 of that is from a sales tax reimbursement that was higher than what we had anticipated. Mainly is because the bigger projects like Inca Intermediate, if we spend more, we get more of the sales tax reimbursement back. So we were very conservative, luckily, with that projection. So 190,000 of that sales tax refund is going to be reverted to, so that we can do some of these projects, as well as you guys know, I think we talked about it at the work session before, that a lot more services are now being taxed with sales tax. So for our fiscal year 15-16, the county gave us the projection in May 2015. And it was, luckily, receipts were higher than what were anticipated at that time. So $260,000, we're gonna be able to use some of that money to help this as well, to offset it, what wasn't approved. Item number 8, these are projects previously funded in the 4042 capital outlay process that we're now gonna be transferring from 4042 funds to lottery funds. That is $650,000. There are 4 projects that make up the $650,000. The AC Reynolds High gym roof, seam stripping, AC Reynolds Middle repave, and phase 1, and Fairview generator replacement. So those kind of fit nice, nice clean projects to do out of lottery rather than Article, or 4042, so that we could free up that money. Any questions on how that works? We're basically, on number 8, we're basically just changing the source of funding that we're using.
Any questions from the board?
Just curious, so with item 8, as you transfer, what then happens? The projects are going to be paid for differently. That would say to me that frees up some Article 4042 money. And then what's the next step with that? Or is that incorporated into what I don't have open on my laptop that we're?
It's
looking at
incorporated
voting on
into
tonight?
the projects that we need to get done now that we're not
That are
funded
part of
through.
What
Right,
we're gonna see later tonight, that we're as part of all of that.
yes.
Okay, that's what I.
Yeah.
Refresh,
I'll let my laptop
I
out.
knew this number at one point, but how much capital lottery money do we get for the year?
Historically, we've got about 1.8 million a year. I don't anticipate that to change really, in the near
But-
future.
We won't be able to do what we're doing right now in the future.
This is really a one-time fix for these projects that need to get done. For example, we're gonna be moving a project to lottery in order to, do the TC field. So that's an example. It didn't get funded in the school capital commission, so we're gonna be moving another project to lottery in order to pay that out of the 4042 funds.
You know, I think that's an extremely good point, though, Chip. And I'm just gonna throw a warning out to this board. As we all know, the change in the law eliminated the distribution per ADM. And because we have been extremely fortunate in that we have not had to utilize the lottery funds to the extent that many other school systems across the state have, because the majority of them have basically all lottery funding, even into debt service for most of the school systems across the state. So we were very fortunate in that because of Article 39 and the way it was distributed to us, it left a savings account that we're now going to be able to utilize because we got time-sensitive projects. And regardless, and I do not say this in any way, shape, or form to negate the importance of a roof at Asheville High School, because that is safety and liability. And I don't think any of us in this room would want any type of facility structure to be a safety liability issue. But I do say that you cannot, as this particular model moves forward, and the challenges that come before this commission, you cannot negate the differential in the size of the Buncombe County school system and the size of the Asheville City school system, strictly based on the number of facilities alone. Now, facilities, one school, Asheville High School, is very similar to T.C. Robertson in terms of high school, in terms of the structure, but it's the number, it's the quantity. So I think this really truly bears monitoring. This is the first time around. I think the commission did the best that they could. There's no reflection on the commission whatsoever in their recommendations. But I do believe that it bears monitoring with our school board in the future, because ultimately I see this, if it continues with not reflecting the difference in the size of the systems and the funding that's being used to finance projects that come to that commission, that I think ultimately, down the road, that there will be a loser in this. And no one's losing at this point. No one's losing at this point, neither system. But there's that danger, so I do believe it needs to be monitored very carefully as years go on.
And Madam Chair, if I could add to that, I think part of the problem, having sat in meetings, is that regardless of whether it's Mr. Freely's presentation, whomever, the decisions that we're making, that group is making, are being made as if we are one school system. And we're not all the same, it's two different school systems. So when something gets brought, it all gets lumped in together, even though it's coming from two different places, so that there's just not any thought being given to those differences in number of students and size and thing. Having said that, my greater fear is this, and I know we're keeping some lottery money in reserve. My greater fear is that group, the way we're proceeding with what we're doing is we're borrowing all the money for everything we do. And that's not something that Macomb County Schools has always done. We've paid for many things as we go. And that's not what that group is doing. We are financing everything. That's the way the county is wanting to do this. That's my fear, because if something isn't right, where do you
It
go?
ties up future.
Where do you go? It ties up future, and you know, it wouldn't take but a 0.5% bump in the interest rate that's being able to be achieved now. As that group looks at numbers and what debt service will be like, et cetera, you bump the interest rate up 0.5%, which is not a lot. And that's coming. Even to governmental agencies, that's coming. Once the Fed starts moving some of that, we're gonna see some of that. Then you change a whole lot of the dynamics of it, and that's the part to me that is the most worrisome, because you're gonna get to a point where somewhere down the road, what do we do? Now, I have asked the question, and I think I've told a couple of you this, I'll tell everybody here, I have asked the question in the room. Are there other sources of revenue that either school system could come to the county commission and ask for if you need to? And the short answer was, well, it's a long discussion, da-da-da-da-da-da, yes. So I think we have to keep that in mind as well. I don't think as this school system, we ought to just lock ourselves into, I know what they'll do, they'll say, you gotta go there first, but there's gonna be a point in time, unlike Dr. Baldwin, there's gonna be a point in time where 3, 5, 7, 8, 10 years down the road, there's gonna be a backlog of things that are gonna be critical in nature from a facilities perspective, in my opinion, that Piper's gonna have to be paid something.
You all done a great job with the capital outlay plan and evaluating our needs. And as a board member, it's been easy it's been easy for us to make those decisions because you all have to go through our process. Does that committee have any types of process in evaluating to be able to compare the carpet at Asheville High to the carpet at Inca? I mean, how is the decision
What's his name?
made?
He's retired. Greg Israel's retired from the county. But when we've asked him to evaluate just some limited things, I think this will play out. I don't know how it's gonna play out. It's gonna play out more as we go. Well, and that's what we've he has said, I'll help you and you don't have to pay me, that kind of thing. But what I see of his help right now is he's going to Mr. Fearley, or he's going to the same counterpart at Asheville City School. So it's not somebody that's putting eyes and feet on rooftops and evaluating chillers and parking lots and all those kind of things. It could be that becomes different. And we are charged by the state in the law that we can fund ourselves. I mean, we could be paying money to an attorney rather than the county. There's a lot of things there that the statute says we could do that we've not done yet. Where that'll evolve to, I don't know. And I'm sorry to be the Dan down.
Any other board members have questions or comments of these gentlemen? Yes, sir.
Going back to the turf fields, back when we installed those, didn't we put in place then a plan to replace them down the road?
And every year in capital outlay, there's been a holdback of funds, and we've used that to do Reynolds High and to do Owen and Irwin, and we're about to use that up on the next project. And then we didn't put enough aside because the replacement turf costs more than what was anticipated. And I'm not sure the intention was to fully cover the costs,
There
but
was a year we
it-
didn't fund it too.
yeah, we had a tough year, but it sure has helped, because we haven't had to tap the Article 39 funds or capital outlay funds any further, so it gave us a good jump start. But we've basically, now we have to do it through our Article 39, or as we're proposing here, the next one by lottery.
And
So
we
down
have,
the road, I mean, you don't
North
know.
Buncombe draws the short end of the stick.
Well, they probably should.
Based on their board representation, is that what you're saying?
I know, that's what you expect.
we've doubled what we put back now. After seeing what the prices came in as when our first turf field, we have doubled that amount that we keep back each year, but it's, we can't go back 10 years and hold it.
And
I think we were taking the recommendation of the guys that were building it, right? And how much,
At the
how much,
time,
at the time, how much they thought it would cost, because nobody knew.
05.
And it has evolved a
Yeah.
lot since '05.
And
So every year, we're still putting it back, and it'll pay for about half a field every
Each
year,
year,
capital
yeah.
outlay. Then when we're done with the field, we can start building up.
It was around 125 before, now we're at 250 or so.
It's about
Hey,
half
what fund did that come out of?
40-42.
regular capital.
So Pat won't steal that.
No, we still have.
No,
No,
that's-
Pat's got a beautiful football field.
But I'm in his condition.
It's an interesting dynamic.
Well, I appreciate, and I'm sure that all of the board members appreciate Pat's work and that committee, and the presentations that you folks have made have been very informative, and I appreciate all the work that had to go into that preparation of that information. Other board members? It's 10 till 5, these people need to quit,
Thank you, sir. Sir.
Thank you.
It's time to go home for them. Do you have other things, Dr. Baldwin?
No.
Anybody else? I'd entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting. Anybody second it? We're moving down the road. If anybody needs a map, how to get from this school to